Well, we're ready to do the talk on AM Talk. And also, you know that it's the eve of Christmas. And during the period, there's a caution statement for all of you. It's not as if we're the police, but we're the road security. And for our road safety tip this morning, which is coming to you from the Road Safety Management Services Limited, try to spot hidden hazards. That is children along the road, hawkers on the road. Remember, you share the road with pedestrians and other vehicles. Maintain a safe following distance. It means that I think by law you're supposed to maintain a distance of 50 meters. Usually doesn't happen. I maintain 50 meters, but many of you don't. Please try and maintain this Christmas. It's important. And also stop talking on your phones when you're driving. It's not good. It's very hazardous to your health. And also practice defensive driving by reducing your speed when you are on the road. Well, so those are the tips we'll usually give you. Usually Akusha will give you that one. But we're ready to do some discussions this morning. We all know that there has been an increment in utility tariffs. And we're being told, according to the Daily Guide, there's likely to be a cabinet shake-up or reshuffle. And the Ministry of Health has descended on Tobinco, and following also a committee that has brought its own reports. We would like to see what really are some of the ramifications. We have to help us do the discussion in the studio, Godwin Akogan. Well, he's a Gan, so it's supposed to be Akotu, but we'll see how that goes. He is a member of the NDC, a part of their communication team. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.
We'll have to start with the utility tariffs. And we're being told that water, electricity, well, those two utilities have gone up, and the Public Utility Regulatory Commission has announced that for electricity, it has gone up by some 10% or some 9%, and so it's 9.73%. If you approximate it, almost 10%. Water is 6.8%, and the increment, according to the PRC, is to correct movement in the automatic adjustment formula. And according to what we heard from the PRC yesterday, those or the use of the automatic adjustment formula, which had always been used but suspended for close to 2 years, had been resumed following a consensus from all parties, organized labor, etc. Well, it doesn't seem to sit well with organized labor. What do you think on the current increment? You're a member of the NDC.
Yeah.
I mean, don't talk for government today. Be very objective.
Good. Let's say, let me first say good morning to our cherished listeners. And the timing of this increase has been, to some of us, has been a blow. Though it is not directly coming from government, and it is a separate organization who are mandated to do this. The last time that the increase was done, government had to take 25% of it. And it has increased again, and government has not directed whether it's also going to absorb this percentage. But looking at the last week, we came online. And what is the effect on the Ghanaian? Because if we are just generating 400 megawatts, and then if you calculate the per cost for Bui, which is about 13%, unlike using crude oil to generate electricity. So what is the Ghanaian benefiting from this Bui dam that is coming on stream? So I think, and looking at the Yulitide, just 23rd, then you announced that January you are going to start taking.
It means you have to save for next year.
You understand?
You're supposed to plan properly, yes, as a human being. But do you think that these increments are justified? That's a question that many people on the street seem to be asking government.
It is two ways. Those in charge of producing our utilities are saying that it is justified, because if you look at the cost of crude oil, the cost of gas, it means that we need to pay this amount. But let's look at the conditions that we find ourselves in today. Is every Ghanaian going to be able to afford this increase? That is the aspect that the government also need to direct its attention to. That is why we saw that it's not prudent the last November, when we had to have this 69% increase. Government saw that it is not realistic, so it has to absorb. Are we going to absorb again? Then what will be the use of this increases every 3 months just for the government to absorb it. We need to sit down as a nation and see how to direct some of this energy prices, and then because it was not for nothing that for 2 years we were not using this what's the name of this organization?
The automatic adjustment
adjustment, yes, for 2 years.
It's a formula that's used to do the calculation.
Yes. But it was not used for the past 2 years. People were saying it was politically because of the elections.
But don't you think so? Because
I don't think so.
And that was not the first time we're seeing it in Ghana.
Yes.
And that is why we've had a pile-up of the current rates that have been extended to consumers.
Sure. But you see, we are talking of the pile-up. But who benefits? It's the same Ghanaian. You understand? You can decide that you are increasing it for the Ghanaian to pay. Every 3 months you add 2%, 10%, or 15%. Then at the end of the day, the Ghanaian is telling you that I can't pay. I am tired of this. So we as a government, most of the time, politicians, we allow the technocrats to set the agenda for us. And then when we start our campaign, the people are telling you what they are going through. And then the technocrats are telling you the realistic.
Okay. You are a party person from the whole of yesterday evening, that is Monday evening, when the announcement was made across the media space. What have been some of the signals you've been picking up in your community among your party faithful?
Good. Let me just use the Joy FM polls.
They did a poll?
Yes, Joy FM polls on the performance, 1 year performance of the president. As at yesterday in the afternoon, John Mahama was 61.7% on excellent. Those who were voting for very poor were somewhere around 7.8. This morning, when you check on Joy FM, I cannot directly tell the indices that affected the drop, but we are now at 57% on the Joy FM polls on the performance, which means that this announcement of increase hasn't gone down with Ghanaians, and this is the shortest or the.
But the truth is that you can't just use the website of Joy FM alone.
That's why I'm saying that this is the only indices.
To do a sample representation of the Ghanaian consumer and the population.
It is not a fair but indices. But the truth is that you cannot ignore it. Yesterday, personally, I heard it around 9 o'clock. I didn't have any interaction with anybody, just as politicians who were sitting somewhere. We heard the news for the first time. And then all of us were like, the timing was bad. The timing was bad.
The timing was bad.
Very bad.
Well, it's not government that has sent it.
Yes.
The point is that what do we have to do now? Since that it was agreed, according to the Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission, that following the initial increment for which the negotiations were undertaken for those reductions to be made, that the automatic adjustment formula should be used, the AAF. And now it's being used, and organized labor, which was part of the whole consensus as to when it should be used or why it should be used, and its own deployment, are crying foul.
Good. So it means that those who believe in the adjustment formula are now seeing that it is not going to inure to the benefit of the ordinary Ghanaian. So what should we do? You see, sometimes when TUC sides with governments on some issues, people don't understand. TUC and government are looking at the welfare of the ordinary Ghanaian. Somebody who wants to implement the automatic adjustment formula, he doesn't care of if you can afford or not. These are the rates. This is the rate of crude oil. This is the production cost. And they are not looking at absorbing anything, roll it on to the user. But let's look at its effects on business.
Which is?
For instance, it's cheaper to use electricity than to use a generator. But if you look at your production, if it is a factory, if production cost is going high, what is the effect on the commodity? It also goes high. Now, people who are consumers are also saying that if prices are going high, increase my salary. So the effect, it's a chain.
Well, we do understand that because government has also announced that there will not be increments from next year, and I know that
on salaries.
Yes, definitely. But the point is, according to what the energy experts have been saying over the last couple of weeks, if not months, is that Ghanaians have to be realistic. We need to pay realistic prices. The way we're going as a country is not the way to go.
President Kufuor says something, and I agree with him. He said that we are pretending to be paying workers, and workers are also pretending to be working. You understand? We are talking of realistic wages, paying realistic amount for electricity, water, and what have you. If everything becomes real, then the final consumer doesn't have a problem.
Understandable.
Understandable. We have this every 3 months. The adjustment is going to take place every 3 months. So let's see.
Quarter, yes.
Every quarter. So every 3 months.
So in March, the next one comes.
The next one comes. Then the next one comes.
Will come in July.
And then the salary is still the same. What would be the pressure on government? So it means that government needs to analyze it and see how not to roll this on to the consumer. Else, we'll be in July and then we'll see agitation starting. We don't need to wait till that period before.
But Godwin, is it not the same case for which 2 years ago, from 2010, we should have been using the automatic adjustment formula for which it was suspended, and for which also the criticism on the part of government is that it was for political expediency?
It wasn't for political expediency.
Do we have to be
you see,
rewinding a wheel?
No, there's one thing. Nobody is saying that this automatic adjustment system is bad. Let's get that right.
Okay.
But you see, we are living in an economy depending on crude oil being imported. You understand? And then prices of crude oil, if it keeps rising, it means the ordinary person is going to suffer for it. Are we going to go to that circle? When they adjust the prices, what happens if government, for instance, we decided to pick 25% the last time because it was so huge, 69. Personally,
and government had to absorb the rest. You know, after the negotiations on that.
What I'm saying that is that I personally felt it. You know, I was spending 80 Ghana cedis on electricity a month. I started spending 1.7
and so
in a month.
You needed to pay realistic prices.
I don't have a problem with it. But my issue is that can every person, an ordinary person, and you see, there are some things too that we are not putting in place. For instance,
which is what?
Somebody living in a compound house, 7 rooms, 1 meter. Then we always say that there's a limit to your, if you spend less than, I've forgotten, I think 40 or something, you get a discounted rate and all those things.
You mean the units or the credit?
The units,
yes.
Yeah. And these are people who are living single rooms, chamber and hall. And they are using 1 meter. They are spending more than I do. But if individually they are being given their meters, fine. Then the cost that they are going to pay will be less. But go to electricity today.
The higher you earn,
the more you pay.
The higher you consume,
the higher you pay.
The more you pay.
You understand? And this is affecting the
lower level. If Godwin, you are advocating that government really needs to sit down, where lies the sitting down on this very subject and undertaking some level of negotiations? Because the point is, prior to the first increment, the issue was laid bare to Ghanaians that due to some of the variables that tend to influence what really permeates the payment or the absorption of the various utility prices by government, it wasn't going to inure beneficially to the Ghanaian and likely to affect the taxpayer and what was in the national coffers. You
see, we were discussing it at a period where electricity has been raised to 69%. And it was a crisis. TUC was on the neck of government. TUC, which proposed that we should go back to this formula, are now against it. Because
their argument was that it came too early. They were thinking. But the point is that January 2014 is not January 2013. It doesn't matter when the initial one was
If you
released,
agree, you see, if you agree with the principle, it doesn't matter when the principle comes to effect. But the issue is that it's not about it coming too early, but it is people's ability to pay. And that is the direction that we need to go, especially as a social democratic party that I belong to.
Well, what have been some of the responses of your party members, since you're talking about party and you being social democratic? Doesn't matter even at all.
I said earlier that I've not had an interaction with anybody, but we were sitting somewhere yesterday when the announcement came, and no one was in favor of it. But on the grounds, we haven't been. But you see, on another score, the Ghanaian will always say, I can't pay. That one is there. You understand? The Ghanaian will always say that I can't pay. But let's go beyond the I can't pay. And let's look at the adjustment. We can have this 4 increases without a single drop. The last time we had petrol prices going up and dropping. But I don't remember the last time that we had this for electricity and water. It will always go up and it will hardly come down. And that is the fear looking at it going forward. I'm predicting that July we are going to have crisis because
so government needs to take a look at it and sit down with various groups, organized labor, etc., who are concerned. But this is just a 9% increment, so to speak.
Don't say just.
Not just.
Yeah.
Well, that is why I don't work with the PURC. Tying this closely with what's labor earns in terms of what workers earn is a subject of minimum wage. And there has been a consultant, a labor consultant in the person of Ben Arthur, has advocated the scrapping of the daily minimum wage policy to ensure efficiency and productivity. And according to Mr. Arthur, paying workers daily for no work done was counterproductive. He suggested that the introduction of the hourly minimum wage, which is more efficient in terms of performance appraisal, was critical. He said this will lead to attitudinal change on the part of workers. And so if you miss an hour of work, so you have to clock every hour. If you miss, you don't get paid. If you are off in the office, for example, I'm off in the office for 2 hours, it means I don't get paid for 2 hours, and then I get to know that.
Yeah. You see, our system is like that. You can clock and be in the office without working. Go to the ministries. And you see a lot of people on their mobile phones, on their iPads, during office hours. It looks like we need to be there. That is why we are there. For instance, look at Kolibu. There were some arrears to be paid. They brought the cost for government to pay. The number was 654. They were directed that use your internally generated funds to pay. The list dropped from 600 to 405.
Because they saw the quantum and they had to check and go through.
You see, what the direction that we need to go is what the government has decided. That
which is?
There are some organizations that need to start paying its workers from their own IGF. And if you realize that your staff is overbloated, then responsibility metrics is applied so that you don't have idle hands, and every effort will go in the direction of productivity. But if government is paying salaries, what happens is that, oh, I have a nephew at home, just finished Legon, let me just put him on. You just roll on.
Because there are no jobs in the system. There could be justification for such moves as well.
I wouldn't side with. You see, we are not being creative as managers of organizations. You can't find this at NHIS. There are some organizations that they are using, how do you call it?
The right methods.
The right methods.
In terms of undertaking supervision and all.
You understand?
The president consistently, when the subject of the amount of money or the percentage of Ghana's GDP that or revenue, so to speak, that was spent or is spent on wages of public sector workers, has said that there need to be a lot more positive outputs in terms of how effectively workers were working for it to have a positive output. Do you agree with that? Do you think that we still go on that tangent of argument? Because so far, haven't we learned any lessons?
You see, we might have learned lessons, but you see, our lessons learned are most of the time for a period. You know, when there are issues like this, then there are structural changes, effectiveness, then we go back to sleep. You know, look at Thermaport. We brought this, how do they call it?
A city
tax form and all those things. And revenue started. But I can promise you that to get to a point that the tax force...
We're going to slide back into...
and they might even be part of the corruption and the revenue will drop. It means that our structures are not working. For instance, why can't I walk to Thermaport to clear my car? That I need to use some agencies. Whereas you can go to other places, they'll tell you, if you are importing this, this is the tax that you are going to pay, this is this, and this is the procedure. So you just walk in through the
anywhere
procedure.
around the world, they have clearance houses or clearance agencies.
Yes.
So it's not as if that is going to be new to Ghana, or it has been new to Ghana.
It doesn't mean that
I think the question is, after all the talk following the concerns about exceeding or budget overruns and all that, and the question being asked about whether workers in the public sector or on the public wage bill are giving their best, the optimum output. How should we tackle this?
That, you see, I can cite an example of a bank, government-owned bank.
I hope you don't mention that.
I won't. And then I needed an ATM card. I went there at 2, I've already applied, 2 o'clock. Going to take delivery of it. And a lady told me that, oh, you should have been here early. I have taken all the cards to the vault. Not 4 o'clock. Oh. And even if you have taken it to the vault, what prevents you to go back, pick it for your customer? This won't happen at a private place. And these are some of our attitudes that kills us. This same person will go to a private sector and go and work and will win an award. It means that the government sector is not challenging us enough. We just get relaxed because at the end of the day, I'm going to get paid. I am not giving targets and all those things to meet. Yesterday, I went to some few places, and if you look at the hampers that were going out of government agencies, you will marvel.
I thought you said, I thought the government has said there was a directive.
Good. And if you look at the hampers, I don't want to mention the ministries and agencies, the hampers that were flowing out. So you ask yourself, what have they achieved 2013? They should do an appraisal. Just hold the hamper in their hand and ask it, do I deserve you? And these are some research that we need to do as individuals.
How do we ensure that increased supervision of workers in the public sector? We're talking about not necessarily workers in the ministries, departments and agencies, but also with the district assemblies and even government affiliated corporations.
Yeah. I have been with AMA for 4 years. Okay. You understand? And if you look at supervision, it is based on every sector. There are some sectors that you can't even sit. There are pressure there, revenue. For I think 2 years, a private person came in to assist the AMA generate its revenue. and I tell you the money that they are making, you ask yourself, and they are doing it for a percentage. If they get more than your projected, they take 40% of the excess projection. And if you look at it, and then we have our staff in there who could have done this thing without bringing this private organization to AMA. But these private people came. The places that our revenue officers were saying is too difficult to go. These are the same places that a private person went there and was bringing in money for the AMA. It means that our attitude, you see, sometimes I don't want to direct it to, how should I put it, managers and all those things. First of all, you as an employee, you have got a responsibility towards your organization. Until we have that mindset, even when we are given targets and we meet the target, we will not go beyond meeting the target. But it takes a personal decision. What am I in here for? And what is expected of me? And that is what we need to work out. And then I think that the Ghanaian is, we go outside Ghana and we perform very well. But in Ghana, look at those who travel and come back. They see everything so bad the moment they arrive about the system. But
maybe 2 months or 3 months into the system,
then they adjust.
They get to integrate. It's a Ghanaian mentality, is it not? We have had in the studio Godwin Akogan, and he's a member of the NDC communication team. We'll be having Director for Communications CPP Ni Ama Akomfra joining us very soon. But before we do that though, we have to take a short break. We still have the social network pages on Facebook, Joynews on TV, and also a short code for you to get communicated, 1760. As you get interactive, we're taking a short break. We'll be right back. Well, so we're ready to admit into the discussion. Niaman Kumfra, he is Director for Communications at CPP. Thanks for joining us, Ni.
It's a pleasure, as always, Roland.
We gave you wrong time today. We're sorry. We have to apologize to you. And we apologize to our viewers for missing at least the first 30 minutes of Niama conference contribution. But he's here now.
Thank you.
The talk about the PRC announcing the increment of at least close to 10%. We're being told 9.7 for electricity and in excess of close to 6, or just in excess of 6 for water.
Well, Roland, let me first wish you and your team a Merry Christmas. Let me wish your sizable viewership a Merry Christmas in advance. Tomorrow is the day, the birth of Christ. So I think for many Christians, it's a very important day. So let me wish them a Merry Christmas. Tariff increases, I think we've entered this festive season where many people are already wondering how they are even going to feed their families.
Oh, they are going.
How they are going to.
The whole of Accra is blocked. People are going to a central business.
It's
and
a
they're
struggle.
buying things.
It's a struggle, Roland. You have to admit it. It's a huge, huge struggle. And this issue of tariff increases, many people will tell you that the gimmicks of the last tariff increases, where we were supposed to have received 25% discount, many have not been credited with this discount, and we're going to put up by 10%. So it's just proven to be just a gimmick. It went up. Organized labor were up in arms to protect the interests of workers in this country. We were told that as a result, we were going to get a decrease so that the hardship on Ghanaians can be minimized. And what are we now seeing? Less than 3 months down the line, we're going to see another price rise when we have not effected the discount to people. So what sort of gimmick is this? Many people are asking. What sort of gimmick is this? And can we honestly continue to put up utility prices when ordinary, I mean, the president has said that we look forward to a better 2014. How do you begin a better 2014 with price increases in utilities? How do you begin a 2014 when many people already believe that the hardship we've had in 2013, perhaps we're coming to a point where this can begin to abate a little bit, that we're going to see some sort of good news, a better management of the economy, which is going to deliver perhaps a happier times for the country. And already we can see how 2014 is going to go. We're going to get the same level of gimmicks, increased hardship on people, increased poverty, and that is
somebody say you're doing politics. Is it not true that government
of course we're doing
has no link with the PRC or whatever? As far as
but it was government that announced the reductions. It was government that said, for whatever reason, it was going to subsidize. That has not happened.
Or whatever.
And absorb. So,
but this time it's the PRC. And I remember the last time around when the initial increments were made, for which there were agitation from organized labor and other groups. Then they had to sit down, and there was a special committee that was put in place, etc. And they came out with all that. And the absorption by government. The agreement was that the use of the automatic adjustment formula was crucial, and the PRC has decided to do that, and it's implemented a new rate.
The PRC...
And you feel is this satisfactory?
I feel that the PRC and government should be mindful of the needs of Ghanaians. We cannot have organizations that are simply there and they are thinking about whatever they want to do. You have to think about the plight of ordinary people in this country. And if the PRC wants to do this and the government feels that it's going to impact negatively on the people, then the government can intervene. The PRC is not a body that we've elected. It's not a body that anybody has voted for. It's a body that is there, it's a statutory body, yes. But the needs of ordinary people cannot simply be ignored. And we feel that as a party, continuously the hardship on the people is overlooked. Where is this issue about, people matter, we love you,
well, we do understand. Do you think that the issue or the virtue of empathy should override the numerous concerns that have also emanated from various energy experts over the period, that Ghanaians really need to be paying realistic tariffs?
But who has got us to the situation where we are in now?
Which situation?
The situation where these bodies are owed huge amounts of money. Some of it from government and some of it from the people that they're supplying.
Well, the last time I heard, government had defrayed most of its debts to the utility companies.
Well, they haven't defrayed. Yeah, but the hardship that we're in now, and the inefficiencies of these organizations is what they are seeking to pass on to Ghanaians. And why should ordinary Ghanaians continue to pay for inefficiency, the government government mismanagement, and all of these issues? That is what is at the heart of this issue, and government should take some of that blame.
Now, because tying this closely, as far as the increment in utility tariffs, is the subject of whether workers will be willing to pay, and following that also the concerns about the wage, the annual wage increment, for which government has come out to say that, well, I tell you, we can't support any wage increments the whole of 2014.
What we know is that increasingly, well, for as long as any worker can remember, inflation and the cost of living has outstripped salaries, and continuously, we've seen jokes, we've seen cartoons.
Who told you that?
Well, ask any worker. I'm also a worker. And we know that what we earn cannot make ends meet. What the majority of people earn cannot make ends meet. You cannot sit here and tell me that what you get in the job you do covers your cost. And that means that in this country, not many people have disposable income.
Are you trying to put me in a tight corner because I'm asking you questions?
Not in a very tight corner. I'm trying.
The truth of the subject is that if they are going to be incrementing wages, it means that government's wage bill, especially for the public sector, is going to increase, and that ultimately is going to affect the revenue generated, how much is spent on the wage bill for just a limited number of public sector workers. And we have to be realistic, don't we?
Yes, I think the public sector workers will just be happy that their arrears are paid. Many will be happy that the battles that are going on in terms of single salaries, single spine salary structure is just settled with before we even come talking about increments. But for the rest of the population, I think they'll just want a living wage. People want our economy to be managed in such a way that you can earn a living, a proper living. I think you will admit that not many people in this country can make a living from what they earn from their employment.
I don't know why you keep posing this very question to me, I should admit, because there's nothing for me to admit. But in the meantime, we have a labor consultant who has been quoted in various press stories. He's in the person of Ben Arthur, who has been advocating the scrapping of daily minimum wage. He feels that paying hourly wages, for which, well, if you clock in, you're paid just like the existing places you have lived and worked. That's the optimum way to go. Do you think, and share his same thoughts?
I think the argument is very flawed. What does the ordinary person who's working need? Whether you break it down into hours or you break it down into, they want a wage that they can live on. So for me, it's a non-argument. You know, whether it should not be a daily wage, a minimum wage, it should be an hourly, it should be, you know, somebody wants to be able to, at the end of the day, take money home that they can feed their families with, or they can be able to live, have a disposable income and plan their future. And so, whichever way you look at it, if you break it down into hours, there's still a basic minimum that the TUC or we as a party, the Convention People's Party, think that an ordinary person should get so that they can live their life. So I'm not going to think it's a good idea, it's not a good idea. I think for us the main argument is giving people a living wage that they can live on.
But wouldn't the idea be more logical if you posit it in this very context, that the concern has been that workers really don't give their optimum output?
Well, then we are looking more at efficiency, we're looking more at how you can get more out of people, etc. And I think it's not really a wage issue. Okay. It's about incentivizing people at their workplace so that they are, you know, in the UK, for example, when postal workers were absenteeism, lateness, etc., a scheme was introduced that the best postman will get a car, for example. Now, that eliminated the issue of lateness, absenteeism. So
you think we should be doing that in the public sector as well?
Incentives. It's about incentivizing people in any workplace so that they can they are motivated to work, so that they feel that they need to go to work. You know, it's about so that we can get more efficiency out of this thing. I don't think it's a wage issue. You know, some may feel that we use
so the issue of increment wages. It's not about whether the wage is high or low.
Incentivization.
Oh, okay. The front page of the Daily Guide seem to be speculating something. It says that cabinet is expected to have a reshuffle. I was hoping one day you'd be in cabinet.
It's not my ambition, but
it's not your ambition.
My ambition is that we have a better managed country.
If you have your party in power, I'm sure you can be. Nyama Kumfa, don't deny if they give you ministerial posts. If your party is in power, you will take it.
Yes.
It's not as if you are incompetent. You are competent, so don't worry. There is a looming ministerial reshuffle that will sweep away some ministers in the John Mahama administration. Again, this is a press speculation. It says Ms. Aito, who currently occupies the health ministry, is one of the hard-working ministers in the present administration, but it appears she has had enough and is bowing out. She's likely to be replaced by Dr. Irene Japong. Other ministers such as Mark Owen Wayongo, Niyama Shite, Florence, Rahel, Apo, etc. are to be finding their way out. What do you think about reshuffles, and do they make any meaning at all?
Well, I think all of this is coming on the back of the president's announcement that he's going to appraise his ministers. Many people thought that this was a bit of ad hocism, if you like.
Who thought that? You mean you are thinking, you and your party?
This is a little bit of ad hocism, because let's put a system in place which says ministers will be appraised every 6 months. Ministers will be appraised every year. The criteria on which they're going to be appraised, if you don't deliver X, Y, Z, we will ensure that then there's a basis. Make it transparent, let the people know. That incentivizes the ministers to deliver at their best. You don't, it's even unfair on the ministers. You don't get up and you just, in the middle of, before Christmas, I'm going to appraise my ministers. Are the ministers even aware that they're going to be appraised? You know, what is the purpose of appraisal in the first place? Is it not when you go to a workplace, if they tell you we'll appraise you in a year, it makes you perform, because you know that you'll be appraised in a year, you'll be appraised in 6 months. So here you have, again, another way of deriving efficiency. But you don't get up and then suddenly, many people think, however, that yes, ministers should be appraised, and many of them, of course, should be reshuffled. And at the top of that tree is our Greek minister and his deputy. Because how do we have a situation that we're in now in this country with agriculture?
What situation do we have?
Well, you may not have been aware of this campaign that we are waging,
which is
on the GMO and the plant breeders bill, where the Minister of Agriculture is telling this country that this bill has nothing to do with GMO.
And because of that, he should be reshuffled?
Well, is he aware of his remit?
Because of that, he's incompetent?
Well, you need to be on top of your remit
And
if you're going to remain. Well, that's the point I'm making. They are certainly not. And many people have lost credibility in the eyes of Ghanaians when they continue to tell us. If, for example, a minister tells you that GMOs are safe, and yet we're doing testing, for what reason are we doing the testing? For what reason are we doing the testing? Is it logical that you're doing testing, but you're telling us it's free, it's safe? Is it not the reason that you're testing to prove one way or the other? So this is the incompetencies that I'm talking about. Second, you should have the Attorney General, the Attorney General's department, who have tabled the plant breeders bill in the first place. And going beyond that, you have a situation where if you are an ordinary person in this country and you steal a ball of kinky, you will get 3 years. Bam. If you steal 800 cedis, you will get 10 years. But if you steal 51 million, they say, we'll bring it back with the interest. And the Attorney General's department tells us that, well, we are negotiating, we are signing an agreement. These are the people who should be at the top of that appraisal and should be
you feel these activities smack of incompetence?
I feel that they are not in the interest of Ghana.
Okay.
They are not doing their job in the interest of Ghana.
Your point, mate. Your subject on the ministerial reshuffle perceived, though, because all these
definitely there's going to be a reshuffle. I've not witnessed any government that has never done reshuffle, but for us to direct it to some ministers, I think it's unfair. The president
like what Inyama is doing.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
That's his own opinion, right?
I know.
He's
I know.
entitled to it. Is
I
he
know.
not?
Yes,
Okay.
and I respect that.
Okay.
But I would wish that we don't go to that direction. The president has the right to appoint and remove, not because of inefficiencies or because of the shift or the direction that the government wants to go. He can decide that this is a performing minister, but I want to use this this person because of the direction that the government is going in 2014, and can decide also not to do any reshuffle. So this idea, and you see with the pictures that I see, Ogbami, for instance, has even come out to say that he's not interested in this ministerial, but I find his picture there, though it is speculations. And the example that you were giving on the GMOs, if you are directing it to the agric minister, then it should end up in parliament, because they are the people that we have appointed them to decide on these things for us. So if they pass it, that means that all the members of parliament should also go home.
But the minister is telling us it's safe. And you're doing tests, which has improved.
You see, on the GMOs, for instance, the chicken that we consume in Ghana, about 70% are GMOs.
What do you mean?
Yes.
You cannot say this, and you cannot get away with this.
You see, let me clarify.
There's a difference in crossbreeding and genetic modification. So don't go there and tell us that chicken we eat is...
You see, so if you look at the testing that is being done, let's wait for the results to come. And let's know the directions and then the differences between it.
Precisely.
Most of the chicken that are being imported. Listen, if you know what they go through.
So you're telling us that our ministers are being negligent.
Not negligent.
In importing poisonous chicken
negligent.
to this country.
It is not poisonous.
Sir, can you let him make his point?
Yes.
And Yama
The fact that people and GMOs are scientifically based.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So it means that you cannot just fight it.
Please don't
It's
turn
bad science. It's bad science.
Don't turn the discussion into a GMO discussion. That's not what we're doing this time. We're talking about cabinet
an improvement
and
of methods and all those.
We understand. We believe in science.
Yes. So let's go that direction, and let's not attack the minister because he has seen the document. They are doing tests on it. As the test is going on, they've laid it in parliament for parliament to also discuss it.
Reshuffle, please. Let's talk on the subject.
Yes,
we're shifting the
It's the reshuffle. They should be reshuffled.
No, with a reshuffle,
top of the list. Reshuffle them.
No, with a reshuffle, it's definitely going to come because there are more hands that can also help in. But we cannot just list. My only problem with the listing of ministers who are going to go and the ones who are going to come in, that's my only problem. But reshuffle, every minister, if you know that if you are appointed today, you know that tomorrow the president can decide that you are going home tomorrow. So that one shouldn't be a problem, and it shouldn't also be on the basis of inefficiency. You can be doing very well, but maybe where you are, the role that you are playing will not inure to the benefit of the government, maybe 2014, or even with the ministry that you are in. You can be moved from one ministry to the other. So we shouldn't make it of an issue of incompetence.
Okay. There's a story on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. It's a Ministry of Health descends on Tobinco, sends drugs back. The Ministry of Health has ordered Tobinco Pharmaceuticals Limited to return the 20 containers of drugs currently held up at the port to the country of origin. But talking about that also, there's a committee that had been undertaking some level of investigations, and the committee was mandated by the minister in October this year to investigate issues surrounding the fracas between Tobinco and the FDA, and the committee also found that the FDA had also not been following certain procedures. That the norm is that, well, you don't issue the permit at all, but I think the practice has been that after the permit has been issued for the first consignment or the drugs to be brought in, the next consignment for which they will also need the permit to be issued before they were imported. In itself, they allowed the companies to import, and then when they come, they give them some form of temporal
license or whatever
for them to put those or convey or transport those imported items into a warehouse, and then there was a lull. The FDA does not follow up. Have you been following the subject of Tobinco and the current committee's report? And what do you make of this, that 20 containers of drugs imported should be
I think that we
exported
need to,
back to the countries of
applaud
origin.
the Ministry of Health to bring sanity to the system, because honestly, we've had this Tobinco issue coming up and down for a very long time. And you see, the press conferences that were organized did not do Tobinco good, because you were already in negotiations with the Ministry of Health, with the FDA. So why did you bring this thing too loudly into, and this journalists were pulling it from various angles. But you see, we are talking of the health of the Ghanaian. If there is a drug, and there's this particular drug that I've forgotten its name, that's been asked to be sent back, this could have, this test could have been done easily. And I don't know why FDA also chose to delay some of these tests, because from Tobinco's angle, they have also sent samples for it to be tested and all those things. To me, there is there's something beneath that we are all not seeing between Tobinco and FDA, you know, in my perspective. Because if you look at other companies that were also cited by Tobinco, that they also fell foul by the FDA, that they also fell foul.
Or Tobinco.
Tobinco cited some companies that also fell foul of the same law that they are being punished of. So if you look at all these things, and then FDA also came back to say that they did it to is it Yafu, or there's this company? Okay, you know. So
let's be forgetting the names. And move on
so
with
let's to me, it is a final this thing to end this Tobinco FDA issue, and these 20 containers that have been asked to be sent back. This is a drug that was imported at a period that FDA hasn't given the clearance to Tobinco to import these drugs, but they decided to import this drug. And I think that we need also to respect our regulatory institutions, because even if you have a case and you've been asked not to import this drug until the test is, even if it is delaying, there's the cost of importing this drug, taking it back. And I know that this drug is going to come back to the country after the tests has been done. So let's look at the cost to Tobinco and all those things. There are some things that we need to do to save our image, because when it happens like that, people have got their mindset, because when it comes to drug, and you are taking it, if the people have got a bad, you have a bad image as Tobinco, any drug that you import, or if I'm being prescribed any drug, I'll ask, is it coming from Tobinco, or coming from Kama, or coming from this thing? So I'll prefer your competitor to you. So when it comes to some of these things, let's save our image and work out, because nobody's happy when Tobinco goes down. Looking at the number of people that they are employing, they've been in this
business for a long time.
For a very long time. Nobody is interested in killing this organization. Just respect our regulators.
It's a regulator and an agency issue. So,
well, I think the bottom line is the health of Ghanaians, and a body has been put there to ensure that the food we eat, the drugs that comes into the country, and many other products are wholesome, first of all, and that they are also complying with our law, and that they are complying with international law, etc. We are in a situation now, whether it's Tobinco or any other company, where many Ghanaians are concerned as to whether the drugs that they buy, as to whether various items that they consume are wholesome, whether they've been properly allowed into the country or not. You know, we have products out there, many of which is not in English, for example. It's in language that no Ghanaian will understand, and yet it's been allowed into the country. We don't know whether what we're taking has gone through some proper process of or proper standard. And so this whole issue of the FDA and Tobinco, it's undermining confidence of the FDA itself and in any other product out there that we are consuming, because we're not now sure. You know, we're not now sure. And this whole argument about some of these goods should be sent back, it shouldn't be sent back. I mean, if something enters this country and is substandard, it should be confiscated. If you're going to ask the same companies somehow, give them some loophole to try and send it out of the country, it will find its way back onto the market. So we're not dealing with this issue properly, and the FDA really should sit up and think. Recently, the FDA, on this same GMO issue, told us that we may be consuming GMO. You have a remit to comply with the law. If the law has not made it possible to bring in such items, how does such items get into the system? And what is it for the FDA to even admit to it means they are failing in their remit.
Because
70% of chicken, we were told. You know, somebody's failing somewhere. It's negligence.
Because there was a committee that was set up to investigate all this, and according to the chairman of the committee, Dr. Alfred Tia Sugri, who is also the Deputy Minister of Health, he said the committee found that the process of drug registration in Ghana was fraught with so many difficulties and challenges, and drug registration is undertaken by the FDA.
Yes.
He said there was a lack of transparency where applicants were not given enough information about the status of the applications. That is, if they put in the applications for registration of pharmaceutical product for months, and this did not augur well for applicants. So your application could be there, you don't get any response from the FDA, whilst perhaps the importation has been undertaken, you know, and then it arrives at the port.
And which ministry has oversight over the FDA?
Health.
Well, of course, the health ministry.
And so why do we get into this situation where they now have to do a report and tell us? The minister is not ashamed to come and tell us that such this is what is happening in the. Why is it happening? That means you, the ministry, have not been doing your job. There's a way that we charge this organization to deliver on certain issues for the country. And health minister after health minister has sat there for the last 30 years, and the NPP and NDC. And we have this situation. And they're coming out to tell us, they are wailing with us that we have this problem. Why have we been voting you into power all this time? For you to come and sit there, publish reports to tell us that
you
this
are
is
saying
the
they have no excuse?
No excuse whatever.
And you see, when it comes to the FDA, it's one of the agencies with a lot of professionals. You understand, pharmacists,
so you would expect them.
You would expect that. You wouldn't have these challenges there. So I
because
think
according to the committee, there was supposed to be a committee within the FDA itself, which was mandated to see to application needs of the various pharmaceutical agencies and importers, etc.
So why
And
should
they're
we
supposed to be
sit
sitting
down?
regularly, but they've only sat down once in 4 years. So how did they issue applications?
People are
permits,
not doing
per-
their job. They are not doing their job.
And that is why the Tobinco also always claimed that he has a case, because he was citing people who were also, because
Other pharmaceutical agencies and importers.
Yes, because if for 4 years, you know, you just sit once. So how do you give clearance for drugs to be imported? Because every single day there are new drugs coming into the system. And, you know, look at this adverts going on radio and all those things.
Have they gone through the FDA? So those are questions you feel that we should be asking.
We need to ask.
How do we make sure that the FDA sits up?
Well, in any other country, if it's the Ministry of Health that has oversight over this body, then within the ministry, you have either an inspectorate or some group of people whose job it is to go around the various agencies that come under the ministry to inspect the processes, to inspect the product itself, whether it's random inspections or whether it's a structured inspection. There need to be some, you know, you have to ask the Ministry of Health what they have put in place to make sure that the oversight that they have is carried out. Do they have such inspections? Do they have such discussions? Otherwise, we should not be sitting here in 2013, entering 2014, for the ministry to say we've done an investigation and this is, you know, it means the ministry was not even aware. How do you have a ministry which has an oversight and is not aware that these things are going on?
Now, Godwin, Nyama Kofan seems to think that all these lapses should have been checked by the ministry.
You see, the first thing is that the committee needs to sit. If the committee
should have been sitting, really,
yes,
not choose to sit.
You know, because now is the way forward.
Yeah,
you understand. They need to sit. If the committee hasn't been put in place, it needs to be put in place, because basic. If you are sitting, you will see the problems and the challenges and the queries you need to give to importers and the permit. Because if you are sitting, then you know that you are licensing somebody to bring this product on. But if you are not sitting, it means that one individual is somewhere directing the pace of which drug should come and which drug cannot also come. So it doesn't augur well for the pharmaceutical companies. We need to put the committee in place if the committee hasn't been formed. So that the moment they sit, and because if somebody will bring an application for 4 months, 5 months, and it's not being attended to, then
according to the report, 2 years.
Somebody should be liable for this failure.
Yes.
Somebody should be liable for this failure, and that person should not remain in their job.
I agree.
You know, Ghana, we
need to move to a different level of standards. We need to move to a different level of performance. This is an era of delivery, and Ghanaians will not accept this continuing lapses, which leads to a health or death.
Okay.
This one I agree.
You know, someone's liable.
Okay, just before we wrap up, what are you doing for Christmas?
Well, Christmas obviously is a time for family. And so I hope to reach as many of my family members as possible to have some time with them. I also hope to reach my pastor so that I can pray for forgiveness for my own lapses. And but I hope that overall it's going to be a good Christmas for the majority who can afford it.
And for me,
any messages you want to give people?
Yeah, before I give the messages, as a member of ICGC, today is our Frank Gold Incense and Myrrh, and it teaches us a lot of lessons.
What's that? You become Catholics?
No. It is the gifts that the 3 wise men gave to Jesus Christ.
Well, we don't understand that.
So yeah, I mean, so it's
those are rituals that usually performed in Catholic churches.
Yeah, ICGC we do that, and then
they also have ritual.
The resources are given out. We believe in charity at this period, so. If there's an ICGC church around you, I'll pray that this evening from 6 to 9, you'll be in one of an ICGC church. Enjoy the Frank Gold Incense and Myrrh. Give your token to support the needy. It is important for us to share during this period. It's not about you and then your family only, but so I would wish my family a Merry Christmas, my friends, Kwesi Omanidapa, And then Sribuo, who lost their dad yesterday, and I think that it's a bad one for him this Christmas. And every person, every Christian in Ghana, let's spend the Christmas well, not the way that people want us to spend it and buying a lot of drinks and all those things.
Yeah. One doesn't drink, so we just want to make sure.
It's a period of truth and love. Let our government be more truthful.
The gentleman talking is Niaman Kumfa. He's the Director of Communications at CPP. He says it's a period of truth and love. And the gentleman also sitting by him is Godwin Akogan. And it just means Akotu. I mean,
Sure. Sure.
Okay, am I right?
You're right.
He's a member of the NDC's communication team. Which one is your constituency?
Okaikwe North.
Okaikwe North.
Yeah.
And so that's been it. And these have been my guests for AM Talk, and we'll be discussing a lot of issues on not only cabinet reshuffles, but also increment in utility tariffs and the concerns being raised as to what should be done in making sure issues and daily activities for the FDA are undertaken adequately. Well, so that's been it for AM Talk. Next, we bring to you AM Biz, and it's up next. Bye.